Welcome to 24/7 English. I'm Professor Connor. Today, let us talk about speaking practice. How are you going to practice speaking using the videos I have uploaded so far, as well as the future videos I plan to upload? Also, practice from your real-life situations, how you interact with people, how you talk to yourself. All these points, let me tell you one by one. The first thing to remember is the saying, practice makes perfect. This is a very common saying. Everybody tells you that whatever you practice, be it English speaking or anything else, you become better at it. So, the only thing you need to concentrate on at present is following all that I am telling you and practicing consistently. For instance, those of you who are at a very basic level of English should have a lot of exposure to the language, and these videos will provide that. In every video, there is English audio, and even if you don't understand half of it or much of it, please watch them repeatedly. What happens when we listen to people who are using the language is that our ears absorb it. The language comes into our ears, and over time, we are able to process it. Let me give you an example. There was someone who didn't know a particular language, but in the place where they were staying, there were only programs in that language on television. When we were growing up, television was limited, so this local language was all that person could watch. After watching it for a month or two, the unfamiliar language became familiar. Eventually, after some more time, they could understand at least the gist, the summary of what was being said. They may not have understood everything, but the summary could be understood quite well. When we keep this point in mind, we don't get disappointed. Many of you who are beginners feel very disappointed, saying, "Why can't I speak perfect English on day one?" It's not possible. Think about it. Anything you do, like learning to ride a bicycle, takes time. Can you ride perfectly on the first day? You might fall several times until you find your balance. Similarly, with speaking practice, the more you use the language, the better you become. Yesterday, someone was asking, "There are so many videos on your channel. In what order should I watch them?" This is an important question. For practice, if you are interested in listening to become comfortable with English, watch any video. It doesn't really matter what order you choose. Suppose you are a beginner. I have labeled certain videos as beginner level, so start there. Don't jump to intermediate or advanced levels right away. I have often mentioned the LSRW approach: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. It should follow this order. Think about how you learned your mother tongue, or observe how small children learn from birth. A child who is unable to hear, who is deaf, does not learn the language. Listening is the first step in learning to speak. So, as adult learners, you need to listen as much as possible. You can listen to anything in English. I'm not saying you have to listen only to my videos, but since you are here and find them useful, I suggest watching them in whatever order you prefer to improve your listening. The more you listen, the better it becomes. Now, someone wanted to know about the British or American accent. English is now a global language with many varieties. We don't just talk about English anymore. We refer to Englishes. This variation isn't unique to English. Take your own mother tongue. Different regions speak it differently. For example, I live in Hyderabad, in the state of Telangana, where Telugu is spoken. In Andhra Pradesh, another state, Telugu is also spoken, but there are differences in grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. These differences exist in every language. So, if you have a problem with any accent, please listen to that accent again and again. In the future, we do not know where you will have to use your English. You must be able to understand every variety of English. In fact, there are people who are learning different accents of English to enhance their ability to get a good job in any part of the world. But first, you need a basic foundation, and it is that foundation in English which I am helping you with. This channel is the result of, I don't know, maybe tens of thousands, or I don't know how many people, who have been writing to me, who have been speaking to me for the past 10 to 15 years after watching the earlier videos on various channels. I don't even know about all of them. For them, practicing speaking was important. You know, today we are talking about how to practice speaking. Practicing speaking doesn't come only by speaking. Unless you listen, you have nothing to speak. Therefore, listening is an activity where, instead of only concentrating on the meaning, you should start concentrating on the language itself. I have been speaking to you, and now there may be around 50 videos on this channel. In these 50 videos, maybe half an hour or 1 hour each, I must have spoken 30 hours of English. Are you only listening to the meaning, or are you listening to the language as well? I am using a formal, structured English here. I'm not using casual or spoken English. I'm trying to use formal English because that's what we do in a classroom. So, you have come to the classroom to learn the entire course. Which one do you want to learn? The choice is yours. That's what social media offers us. You know, we have a choice. Now, when you listen to any video or even the news for 10 minutes, immediately start practicing by trying to say whatever you have heard in your own words. Please don't try to use the exact words used in the video or news item. Instead, try to practice using your own voice mechanism, starting from your lungs to your vocal cords to your mouth, which has a tongue, a hard palate on top, a soft palate at the bottom, and teeth and lips. This is your voice mechanism, your speaking mechanism. Unless you use this machine, you are never going to learn to speak. If you keep listening but nothing comes out, then it's of no use. Whenever you listen to English, whatever English you listen to, please start using it for practice. That's one way of practicing. I have given you many conversation pieces. There are conversations for beginners, mid-level, and advanced levels. There are various points at which I showed you how prose or a poem can be converted into a conversation. Suppose you are walking on the road and you hear two people talking in their mother tongue. Immediately, can you practice in your mind by translating whatever they are saying into English? Of course, if you know the language they are speaking, it should be your mother tongue too. Translate and speak it in your mind. Then go home and speak it aloud, because even if you are practicing in your mind, which, as I've already told you, is a great way to practice, you should still vocalize it later. First, practice whatever you hear around you. Then, practice whatever you recollect. Can you remember the most exciting day of your life? Now, describe it to yourself, saying, "Oh, it was a very exciting day. I'll tell you, when I was in school, we had gone to a beautiful place in Bihar called Rajar. We were returning at night when the car broke down. It was all forest area, and for a young school-going child, it was a great adventure. So now, I'm thinking about it. I'm older now, but I'm remembering an experience from when I was around 12 years old. I'm using English to reconstruct that experience. You can do the same. That's how practice is done. Let us generate these situations from our minds, from our own lives, and then talk about them. Many people love to talk about politics. We often discuss politics in a very passionate, heated way in our own language. But when it comes to English, we hesitate. We don't say anything. We have lots of opinions, but we don't express them. The reason is that we are scared to express ourselves. Now, you have to get rid of this fear. I mentioned this in the first of the speaking videos I made, where I told you that if you want to speak, you should not be frightened. You should get rid of your fear. So, what's the worst that could happen? They might say, "Your English is all wrong." No problem. You know, when I speak English, I might make mistakes. In one of the videos, where it's, "Who are you and what do you do?" the in he teaches didn't come through, and in she teaches as well. Now, what should I do? I didn't check it, so I apologize. If someone tells you, "Your English is terrible," just apologize, saying, "Sorry, I'm just learning English. Will you please allow me to practice with you, as your English is better than mine?" Some others might not say anything. They might laugh loudly when you speak, or they might try to hide their smile. Then you might feel insulted. Get out of that emotional state. Get out of the mindset that if someone makes fun of you or corrects you, you should stop learning English. Please remember, if someone laughs at you, that person is your best friend. If someone corrects you, and I say this as a teacher with more than 40 years of experience, that person is your well-wisher, helping you improve by guiding you. So, go on practicing as much as you can. Do not wait to practice until you are perfect. The more you practice, the more you'll understand your problems. This is called diagnosis. When you go to a doctor, they ask for an X-ray or a blood test. Looking at the reports, the doctor says, "Okay, here's the problem. Now take this medicine." That's a diagnostic test. Similarly, we need a diagnostic test too. I can't give you a diagnostic test before allowing you into this channel, because there are thousands of you, and I am only one person. Therefore, the diagnostic test has to be applied by you through practice. Go on practicing and make lots of mistakes. There are 3 levels in which you need to practice. Level 1. Say whatever comes to your mind. You don't know what's right and what's wrong because you haven't learned enough English to distinguish yet. For such learners, I am creating videos on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, spelling, which hasn't come yet, and punctuation, which will come later. All these videos, especially those on conversation, are for people who can't yet tell which mistakes they're making. Once you know the rules, and remember, the rules can't be learned by watching the noun video or the pronoun video just once. You need to review them often, just as you went to school and studied English for 10 years. From 1st grade to 10th grade, you learned English as a second language. And by 10th grade, if you studied in a good English medium school, you could use the language perfectly. But if you still struggle with English even after years of studying, then here are the videos for you. In your practice, don't overthink about what you need to improve. Just listen to the videos, learn the rules, and keep them in mind.